Going for two live. We are actually live. It's your boy here, Dan at the B League says. Absolutely zero promotion for this. I'm not telling anyone. We are just going to get started and kick on. Why the hell wouldn't we? It's been a while since we've been able to go live. Normally we record these shows on a Wednesday, but your boy was feeling a little under the weather. It doesn't really matter though about that. So we're going to throw the Sunday slate and Monday slate into one big gumbo of prop bets, and that's what we're here to do. So we're going to talk about that, what we had cooking throughout the week. I hope everyone enjoyed the Thursday night slush fest. That was incredible to watch. I absolutely wouldn't have got anything right. That's neither here nor there. But we are going to talk about the Week 12 slate for the NFL games. And I can't wait, actually. It's going to be an interesting week with obviously all the teams on the bye. And obviously, we've got a bunch of players out injured. It's going to be hard to kind of hone in on what we're doing. So we're going to try and get a little bit creative where we think we can find an edge and go from there. Before we get going, as always, underdogfantasy.com or underdog.com. I don't really know. I don't follow the rules anymore. We just talk about what they are. Promo code GF2 for 100% match deposit up to 250 big ones on your initial outlay. If you are watching this, you have either done it already or you haven't. Feel free to go do it. You can always also find us over on our Discord. Our Discord is fantastic. Go over there. It's free, going for two live. Ask your start six questions. The guys are going to go live tomorrow morning. Start six questions. They're fantastic. Topher, Jamie, and Kyle, they do a very good job. They won't be being harassed by me for finding out whether Elijah Moore should start over Jalen Waddle. The answer is always yes. And that's neither here nor there either. So we're going to go on from that. You can watch those guys tomorrow morning. I think they kick off at around 11 o'clock, and get your start six questions in over there. You can find all them over on Discord as well. Get your dynasty trade questions in. Get your waiver wire pickup info over there. It's all that fun stuff. You can do that too. I hope you guys also enjoy the DFS show. Those guys have been on fire of late. They went off I think the podcast would have went out this morning. And you should listen to that every friggin' week. The guys know where to find the edge as such. Either way, we're going to kick off into our prop bets for the week. Why am I rushing? Normally I do these shows in a 5-minute hit. I feel like I have to rush. There's no real reason for that, but that's neither here nor there. We're going to go pick number one. We're going to get a little bit weird. We're going to get a little bit creative on our picks. Oh, Jamie's in the chat. Well, yes, Jamie, it is a live show. Yes, this isn't a pre-recorded thing going live this morning. I am actually here in person, live in color. I don't need to. I was going to type in the chat back because that's what I normally have. No. Good morning. Hope you're doing well. We're going to look at pick number one. We're going to talk about big boy revenge games. That's where we're going to go with the big boys today. We're going to go pick number one. I told you we're going to get a little creative this week. Big boy revenge games. We're going to look at the Dallas at Washington game. Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler. Yes, we're going to get a little bit weird off the bat. Higher than half a sack each. I like this game. Somewhat informed Washington Commanders. I know they've had a little bit of a rough run with Jaden Daniels' health issues with his ribs, and here or there, maybe he's right, maybe he's not. It doesn't really matter. And obviously the former Cowboys DC, Dan Quinn, they get a visit from the divisional rivals Dallas in what I call the somewhat shit show of the week. That's what I feel like this is because, it's somewhat of a shit show, isn't it, Dallas? Washington at the moment are not. However, if this was a year ago, probably would be. I can bet that half the Cowboys are probably going to dog this game. Now, I don't ever want to judge players' effort, but look, we're going to talk about the humiliating they got last week. Absolutely humiliated the week before. And you're talking about what they played the Thanksgiving game on Thursday. That would have been their third game in 11 days. So 3 games in 11 days for Dallas. Like, I know that sounds wild. They had the Monday night game, then Sunday, then Thursday. That's a lot to cram into 3 days with backup quarterbacks, injured players, all that stuff. So in some form of way, a little bit sympathetic. I'm really not that much though. But after that, still, you get to see some of your old boys, the guys that were discarded with the old DC. Guys that weren't required anymore, and now you see them doing worse, and they're on a successful team. So I feel like this is one of those games where you look at Armstrong and Fowler, they're going to go against weaker, older, subpar Cowboys O-line, and a shaky as shit Cooper Rush, who can't, ironically, rush for his life. He's not going to really move that much. He's going to be stuck there. Rush has 6 sacks in his last 2 starts. It was obviously 5 last week, 1 the week before in his first. So congrats for that, Cooper. You're slow. Fowler has 8.5 sacks since getting a starting gig, maybe 5-6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago. What was it, week 12? I think it was like week 4 he really took it, so maybe 2 months ago. But, 8.5 sacks, he's going around about a sack a week, give or take on average. And Armstrong, obviously, he's got a few to his name as well. Sack City, that's where I feel like we're going here for the home team. So take the boosts on offer and enjoy. Yeah, of course I knew that. Probably. Did you know that platypus, or platypi, Can't be found anywhere in wildlife except for Australia. Good. You don't deserve them here. You don't need platypus out here. You've got like school shootings. You don't need platypus here. You don't deserve nice things. That's it. Either way. Pick number two. We're going to talk about Gardner Minshew, lower than 213 passing yards versus Denver. Look, in a game in which you'd probably rather forget a few months ago, Minshew had 130 off 17 attempts in a game where Aiden O'Connell was involved. It was a weird outing to say the least, but I don't think a lot of what Vegas has done this year has been hyper conventional. They're a little weird, and Antonio Pierce is a little bit scattered on, yeah, we're going to start this guy, but I'm not going to start this guy. And then this is our guy, but we're going to go back. They're just a little weird. Zamir White's our guy, but we're going to give Antonio Madison the ball. You know, we love Devontae Adams. I can't wait to ship him off. He sucks. Like it's a really weird sort of a place. It's one of those sorts of things. I can't unsee that, Jamie. Thank you. I'll get to that. Either way, so it's one of those sorts of things where it's weird for Vegas and it's weird for Minshew as well. So, you know, it's a weird season for them, to say the least. And, you know, we could talk about anything but his recent form. You know, he's had pieces missing of late. He's had players traded. It's easier to be lacking when the quality's filtered. I feel bad for Minshew in some degree, and O'Connell to some degree. Still, you've got to produce, and I'm worried that the lack of run game with, you know, Madison and Zamir White hurt. I'm not sure what the status is on those two. I feel like Madison is out. I can't. If someone, Jamie, if you can let me know if Zamir White's in or out, I feel like Madison's out, or I might have got that flipped. Either way, I know that Amir Abdullah is probably a good play this week. Good, you know, either way. But, you know, it's a lack of a run game. We could say they're going to have a lack of a run game there for Minshew this week. You know, the Broncos might lock down Bowers and Meyer. Well, Jacoby Myers, not Michael. Let's not worry about that guy. But either way, you know, so what's in front of him? I don't think that run game's going to trouble Denver at the moment at this point. Look, Minshew, he's had over 200 passing yards twice this year since week 3. Or twice. I mean, twice since week 3, over 200 passing yards. And we think he's going to hit for 213 on the Broncos, who are one of the form teams of the competition. Look, they're bottom 12 in passing defenses and allowing passing yards per week as well. So I really don't like Minshew for higher than 213 and a half. Things have to get out of control for that to happen. I don't think that's going to be the case. Did you know without Australian scientists, we wouldn't have Wi-Fi? I'm sure there was multinational people in that room that involved with Wi-Fi. I'm sure it wasn't just one Australian saying, you know what we need? You need connectivity. That's not really how we work. We're not the quickest people for that sort of stuff, Jamie. I wish we were, but it is what it is. Let's crack over onto pick number 3 for the Sunday slate. Look, I'm going to go to Alec Pierce. I feel like this one might have been a popular talking piece this week. I wouldn't know. I was basically in a coma for 4 days. But it is what it is. Alec Pierce higher than 28.5 receiving yards versus Detroit. I feel like this is a bit of an easy one. I really... No. Yeah, so I feel like this is a bit of an easy one. Can't see that one either. Thank you. I don't know why. It just feels like this is a bit of a gimmick. Michael Pittman might be hurt, or he might be back, or he might not be back. He's kind of getting the run over Adonai Mitchell as well. You know, you're looking, you know, probably won't get the run game going against the Lions. They're pretty good on the run, I guess. You got to keep up with them too. They're putting up 50 points for fun. You know, that's great for wide receivers in this game. You know, obviously the Lions are giving up the second most yards per game in position this year, about 188 yards per week. That's kind of great for guys like Josh Downs. It's great for, I don't know, Mitchell, Alec Pierce, anyone like that. Pierce is a bit of a non-unit, not a chance. I saw him having a bigger role this year than Adonai Mitchell. I don't think anyone really saw that coming, to be fair. I don't even know if Alec Pierce saw that coming. You know, he's grown with Michael Pittman of late. Without Michael Pittman of late, Pierce has hit that quota of 63% of his games this year. So he's gone over 28.5 receiving yards. 63% of his games this year is 3 of 3 for late. So his recent form is over 28.5, and he's done that, in all but 4 games this year. So, you know, I feel like that's kind of a bit of an easy one. If the Colts stand a chance, Richardson's going to have to go vertical, which is quite incredible, to be fair. Knock parts of his game, I understand that, but throwing a long ball isn't a problem for him. You know, maybe the Colts stand a chance if that's the case. You know, if he does go vertical, the guy with 22 yards per reception average for the year. Pierce, 22.5 yards per reception average for the year. 22.2 should be more specific. I'm sorry. This is what I do. He's gone over 30 yards as his longer reception 5 times this year as well. So he could clear this in one pass. It's kind of one of those things where if he's going to get 5, 6 targets and he catches one of them, there's a good chance he's clearing this as well. So, I feel like Pierce is a good option this week across all fronts. I really like him this week. Pick number 4. I told you we were going to get a little bit weird this week, and I really didn't want to, but we're going to talk about Kaiser White. Who? Why am I doing this to myself? Why did I go for Kaiser White? There's all these props. It's like 250, 300 prop bets I could have picked from, and I just said, you know what? Kaiser White seems like a good prop bet. It's just getting weird for the sake of getting weird. I don't know why I did it. I could have just said, Mahomes over. I could have done the easy thing. Kyron White touchdown. I could have done the easy thing. Although he's missed the last 2. It doesn't matter. I could have just gone for something cheap and easy. No. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find the middle linebacker for the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm going to look at his prop bets. That's what I'm going to. What am I doing to myself? What do I do? Look, bit of a risky option here, considering he's averaging 6.5 combined. Sorry, Kaiser White lower than. I should tell you what the prop bet is first, right? Lower than 7.5 total combined tackles at Seattle. So look, again, bit of a risky option here, considering he's averaging around 6.5 combined solo or assisted tackles per game. But look, there's no doubting his opportunity impact at all. I'm looking at a team in Seattle who give up the fewest tackles at 12.1 of the position per week and have reined that back to about 10 tackles per game. 2 linebackers over their last 3. So, my concern is we see Mac Wilson chipping in, Buda Baker getting in, and Gino getting incredibly pass happy of late. So that's my somewhat concern. He's managed 5 tackles in their previous meeting in 2023 as a Cardinal, and I can't believe we just spent 3 minutes on Kaiser White. This is what we're doing today. Thank you for joining me. We're going to talk about weird bets starring Kaiser White. That's what we're going to do. Pick number 5 for the Sunday slate. Let's get over into something a little bit more realistic. And, provided he's playing, obviously he's missed a week or 2 here or there. But we're going to talk about George Kittle higher than 39.5 receiving yards at Green Bay. And I saw this and I went, okay, there's a lot of reasons for this one. And we could talk about all of that. So, first of all, let's clear the air on this. We've been doing this for a couple of years now. And if you guys have watched anything, aside from me struggling during a live show, it's that I can't pick anything that the 49ers do. Let's just level the playing field here. Dan and 49er prop bets have not coexisted in this ever. This has never happened, ever. I don't think I've ever got it right. But we're going to do it this week. I've got a feeling this is the prop bet we're going to get right. I miss on them all the time, but I'm going to go with this one. Look, the Packers are a positive matchup for tight ends, give or take. Top 12 in yards against the position. That's great. So that we've got something like that going for us. At about 55 yards per game. No one else really on the 49ers tight ends worth of note that's going to chip in and really contribute. So it's really just Kittle all the way in that regard. So wheels up for an opposition standpoint. So I already like the prop in that regard. But I believe we're getting a quarterback discount, obviously, with Brock Purdy being missing. So they've got Brandon Allen under center. So obviously they're discounting him on that. And obviously, you had a hamstring issue as well. So we're getting a bit of an injury discount as well. So we've got that going on. It's just call it what it is. It's a must-win game for the 49ers because them and the Packers are kind of really fighting it out for a wild card spot. I know in some degree the Niners could probably still win the division. Arizona's doing well. Seattle's still hanging about. So are the Rams. It's a very tight NFC West. I understand and respect this. But the Packers need to get a wriggle on too, obviously, because Minnesota's still doing well. Detroit's killing it. There's a chance that, one of these 2 divisions, the NFC North or the NFC South, you look at the East as well, like Philly and Washington, they're like kind of Philly have got a bit of a leg up after last week, but you're talking about hypothetically teams who could miss out on wild card spots. It could be 2 teams from the North. It could be 2 teams from the West. It could end up running that way. And this game could be quite pivotal in who goes that way. So 49ers need to get a kickstart going. This has to be the week. And it has to be against the Packers. I think this game has been completely ignored and understated throughout the week, because if I look at this, if I'm San Fran and I lose to the Packers this week, and I've still got to play the Rams, Cardinals, and Seahawks again, you can get in that way, which is going to be a tough ask because they kind of rotate wins in that regard. But you can't really be losing to the Packers and that wild card spot going one game away from you. I really think this is a problematic matchup for them, especially with Purdy missing. Kittle's a monster, and I think with the circumstances we're talking about, he's going to have to be leaned on appropriately. You got to lean and turn to your veterans the most, and I like this scenario for him because I feel like that matchup's there. Look, he's not gone under 40 yards yet this year, and the prop's at 39.5. That's probably the Brandon Allen effect, the injury effect. So I'm not cognizant of that. So I feel like that's there. Look, and he's not been under 50 yards since week 3 versus the Patriots. I can see the guy that throws off Yak having a couple moments or two to shine in this one. And that's all he might get, but that's also what he might need. There are many things that we have, Jamie. I hear Australia is known for big things like the big pineapple. This is correct. The big banana. That is also correct. And big lobsters. You also miss the big merino. We have a massive sheep. I don't know why. There's a big merino. You can look that up. There is a 50, 60 foot tall sheep for some reason. I don't know. It's more of a New Zealand thing, but either way. Are the women bigger too? No. No one does big women like America. Thank you, diabetes. That's great. Either way, we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Monday Night Football. We're going to talk about that matchup. We're looking at the Ravens and Chargers. We're going to combine the shows this week. Pick number 1, Ravens and Chargers, the Harbaugh Bowl. The Bowl of Harbaugh? I think there's got to be a better way to say that. Harbaugh Bowl. I don't think these two have met. Have these two met since their Super Bowl game with the Ravens and 49ers, a decade ago? I don't think they've met since. I mean, they've probably met for dinner once or twice. Either way, we're going to look at pick number 1. We're going to look at Lamar Jackson rushing yards because, of course, we are. Right? Higher than 41.5 at the Chargers. So you're telling me we get Lamar Jackson in prime time on an indoor track at 41.5 yards. Stop it. Just stop it. I will. This is perfect for this prop. I don't know why it wouldn't be. Look, let's start with the Chargers quickly. Look, they've had some issues covering the edges with Mack out and Bosa out of form. You need Perryman and Henley to step up and not let him get on the outside, which, Perryman and Bosa, I'm not really banking on them chasing him down. The older boys, I don't think that's going to happen too much. Look, the Chargers also give up the 8th most rush yards on the ground to quarterbacks at 28 yards per game, which obviously doesn't seem like much. But that's all we need as an edge because we know that, okay, it's something that they somewhat struggle with, and now we've got a guy that excels at it, so that's probably going to fluctuate for us in our favour. Look, this year, Jackson has been under this total once this year. It was like 3 weeks ago. He had a 4-yard rushing day, which is an anomaly. That's bizarre, right? Like Lamar Jackson rushing for 4 yards. I don't think I'm going to watch the game again, but I can't even mentally comprehend him only having a 4-yard. That's like a Jared Goff day. Derek Carr day. Like that's guys that don't run. That's it. And that's kind of crazy for Lamar Jackson, right? So, that's all he's had in that regard. He's carrying a healthy 53 yards per game average rushing. So, we've got like a 30-yard or 10-yard. Obviously, from what they've given up, we've got about a 25-yard discrepancy and a 15-yard discrepancy on what, he's been asked to do. So, he's carrying 53 yards per game. Alone on the road, it's even tastier for Jackson. He's also clocking in a nice 69 rushing yards per game on the road too. So you're telling me on the road, he's averaging around about 10 yards, 12 yards a game more. And this is against a team with a positive matchup on the ground. I feel like this is something we can exploit. So I like that matchup for Lamar Jackson on the ground this week. Obviously, with the Steelers losing this week to Jamie's Cleveland Browns, it's an incredible game to watch. I kind of feel like this is a game that they need to kind of get up on. So, well, they lose to the Steelers last week as well. I can't even remember. My mind's mush. I spent the last week out sick. So either way, we're going to talk about pick number 2 and Mark Andrews. We're going to talk about Mark Andrews because I feel like we need to have that conversation now. We're going to go lower on half a touchdown and lower on his receiving yards at 32.5. I'd want to see where this prop is on Monday because I feel like, for now we can say this is who he is for the year, right? Like 2 to 3 receptions for 25 yards. Like that's what he is. Like he's a 2 for 2, 3 for 2 reception target, the reception guy. You've got a mid-card tight end in Isaiah Likely about. Like I don't even I don't think likely is that good. I know that sounds kind of crazy to say because you can see how the Ravens perform even better when he's not there. So it's one of those things where it's like maybe addition by subtraction. I really think Andrews does better without Likely, and that should be a no-brainer. But like, I don't see where Likely excels better without. I think this is a better team for Andrews to be in it. Either way, but we're now talking about a guy who's now entering the Austin Hooper realm. And we got to stop romanticizing Mark Andrews for the year. Like, oh, it's going to happen this week. No, it's not. It's not happening any week. You know, even in your tight end premiums, you'd be lucky to cross for 7.5 points. Like, this is where we're at. So stop. All right. It's over for the year. Just shut him down, throw him on your bench. Don't even look at him again. The matchup is somewhat fine. You know, the Chargers are about middle of the pack to yards and receptions. And, you know, with obviously Likely healthy, we can half whatever upside we might have had. Add to it, the Chargers are yet to, through week 11 concede a touchdown, which is kind of incredible to the tight ends. Think about that. Through 11 weeks, they haven't conceded a touchdown to tight ends. That's kind of wild to know as well. And it's all of a sudden going to come from Mark Andrews, who's done sweet fuck all this year. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. So, you know, I'm good on him here. We can go under. And if any of his numbers drop, which, you know, I think people are going to see this line and go 32.5. Like, I could see where people are 50-50 on that. But if that number starts to come down a bit, like, I don't even think I'd want to touch this prop at all. Like, there isn't a number low enough or high enough for me to go, I want to get on that. I think we can just fade Mark Andrews for the week. At the moment, 32.5, we're going lower. And the touchdown, half a touchdown, we're going under as well. Pick number 3, we're going to talk about Honky Lad McConkey. Look, we're going to talk about the 67.5 receiving yards and his highest long reception over 23.5. Look, this is our pick number 3. Really, though, if he played on the East Coast, and this is no disrespect to the West, but let's face it, it's nearly 7 a.m. over there. They don't give a shit about this, and I don't give a shit about them. Let's be honest. West Coast can suck it. Like, I don't care for them at this point. Like, how are we meant to care about people who are still asleep right now? I'm recording live for going for 2. This is where we're at. This is what we're doing. So I really think that if he was playing for an East Coast team or a relevant team, he could well be talked about as the number 1 receiver in this class, but we're not. We're going to talk about Marvin Harrison. We're going to talk about Neighbors. We're going to talk about Brian Thomas. We're probably going to talk about other players because no one wants to talk about the Chargers and their boring-ass team that throws it 20 times a game. That's not what we're here to do. So I think he played for a more relevant team on the East Coast. People will be talking about him a whole lot more. And that's kind of the point at this point with the receiver classes. Anyway, no one cares to speak of it because, you know, who the fuck over here cares for the Chargers? No one wants to talk about them. No one wants to look at their props. This is where we're at. He's been consistent. He falls around 40 yards per game and at 61 yards per game average. So we've got a prop that's higher than what his average is. And that's obviously something that's problematic when we're looking at these things. But I feel like we're going to hit higher on these. He's gone over this target. He's also gone over 102 of his last 4. So that's something we've got going for us. He's gone over the target of 23.5 in 3 of his last 4 with the ease of highs of 37 and 60 in his range for longest reception. So he's been doing quite well in that regard. He hasn't scored in over a few weeks. Is problematic. So the touchdown props I'm probably staying away from at this point, although they do like to give up a touchdown, the Ravens, to wide receivers. So if you're feeling a little bit spicy, wait to see if those boosts come in and you can go that route. But if this is the way that the game goes, then Lad McConkey is going to be an absolute focal point of this game. Like, obviously, the Ravens, we know how great their run defense is and has been. That secondary is just weak as piss, and they are a problem for themselves. So we're talking about not being able to stop anyone at this point, and I hate that this prop is higher than his averages. I really want to see them closer together, and they're basically saying, you know, he needs to have one of those big games to do this. I would hate this to be above 75, 77. I feel like that's the way it's going to go over the next few days. But at this point, I think we've got a very big game for Lad McConkey coming in. Look, talking about those Ravens, we're going to beat the dead horse. Second most, the most yards to the position, 89, a little bit more than the Ravens, 1 yard. Very good, yards per game to the position. Most touchdowns to the position at 16 at this point. So they've given up 16 touchdowns to wide receivers this year. Second most receptions per game as well. All in all, receivers get to work on them. So it's one of those things where we're just sitting there going, but this is a matchup for us. So you can talk about Quentin Johnson, but he's kind of all over the place with his numbers. Again, everyone you have to sit there going, okay, or maybe Josh Palmer, you sit there have to go, okay, maybe one of these guys is going to pop off. The only consistent play that they've really had is McConkey, and I feel like this is the way we're going to lean this week. We know it's going to be him, get the targets, get the work, staying on the field. This is the way we're going to go. His numbers are feasible enough for us to go, okay, they're a little higher than what we like, but it's probably going to get matchups good. We can kick on as such. 25-minute shot. I haven't done that in a while. Damn, throat's getting hurt. Getting a little sore there. Oh, great. That's all good though. We're going to talk about our props one more time. We're going to wrap up this week's show. Thanks for sticking with me. We're going to talk a lot on Wednesday. We've got the Thanksgiving games coming up. 3 games. Cooper Rush versus Tommy DeVito. Fuck yeah. Let's go. Let's sit there and hit that food coma when the shit hits the fan. That's what we want to be doing. Anyway, I'm Dan. I'm at the B League Says on behalf of Going for 2 Live. Promo code for Underdog Fantasy GF2, 100% match your deposit up to $250 on your initial outlay. That's what we're going to get a part of. And we're going to wrap up this week's prop show nice and easy. We're going to talk about pick number 1, big boy revenge games, Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler for the Washington Commanders versus Dallas, higher than half a sack each. We're going to look at pick number 2, Gardner Minshew, lower than 213.5 passing yards versus Denver. Pick number 3, Alec Pierce versus Detroit, higher than 28.5 receiving yards. Pick number 4, Kaiser White lower than 7.5 total or combined tackles versus Seattle, or at Seattle, I should say. They're on the road. Pick number 5, George Kittle, higher than 39.5 receiving yards at Green Bay. Monday Night Football's props, we're going to look at pick number 1, Lamar Jackson, rushing yards higher than 41.5 at the Chargers, inside the dome. Let's get on him. Pick number 2, Mark Andrews, lower on half a touchdown and lower on his receiving yards at 32.5. Pick number 3, Honky Lad McConkey, higher than 67.5 receiving yards and highest reception at 23.5. We are going over on that as well. Any good cricket matches on today? I don't watch cricket, but there is a good rugby match on. We've got Ireland versus Fiji kicking off in about 15 minutes on Peacock. So I'm looking forward to that one. The Fiji Flyers, mate, the Buddy Boys. Get on them. Bulla Vanakaratu. That's what we want. We want those Fijians kicking off. Get on your island boys, mate. That's what we want to be doing. Get on the Fijians. That's what we're going to do. Flying Fijians, rugby game. It's going to be a bit of fun. That's what we want. Thank you for tuning in. I am Dan at the B League Says 4, Going for 2 Live. Have a great week. Safe bets. Happy prompts. Cheers and goodbye.